that conversation is too cozy for the situation we are in. We must be deliberate. We must be deliberate about our investments, and they must target areas that we can create jobs. We have to be deliberate. I agree with you. We have put a lot of resources in infrastructure, but the return from those resources in terms of jobs and in terms of what the output, the expected output is not as forthcoming, right? And going forward, our plan is we must be deliberate on the areas that we are going to invest going forward. And they must be areas that will help us deal with the challenge of unemployment. We must be deliberate. I gave an example the other day, and it looked disrespectful when I said that, for example, we invested in a can manufacturing factory in Ruto. We invested 4 billion shillings. We created 100 jobs. It looks nice, you know. We're assembling guns, and it's all nice. But you see, if we had 4 billion shillings, if we had invested it in EBZ, for example, we would have created maybe 4,000 jobs, maybe 5,000 jobs, same amount of money. But so we have to choose the areas we are going to invest going forward, so that the resources that we have, we deploy them in a manner that it brings a return in many facets. Create jobs, and we also create goods that we can, as you say, export. So we are going to be deliberate about that. We are going to work with you, and I'm happy that you people are also concerned about our investment. Where are we investing? Are we getting a good return on where we are investing, or we are investing for a different purpose? From where I sit as Deputy President, and we worked on this with my friend Uhuru Kenyatta, we dropped the ball in 2018. We dropped the ball because the base we had set from 2013 was sufficient. We now needed to move from investing, because if it's being exported in its primary state. In fact, we were having a conversation with my brother Musali and another team, and one gentleman was telling us there that in Westlands that he went to Egypt and he was served this very nice cup of tea, and then he decided, oh, because this tea is very nice, let me buy some, I take it home. So he bought the tea in Egypt, brought it here. So when he came and told his son, oh yeah, I got some very nice tea from Egypt. And then there was some small print at the corner there, product of Kenya. You know, all they have gone to do is to do a bit of blending and package it, and then they are selling it at a premium. So, and you see, we have a huge bottleneck with our auction here. So we need to rethink about the auction and step back and do more value addition to our tea, do more value addition to our coffee. We will create value, we will create jobs, and it doesn't take so much. The problem at the moment is, in fact, I had a gentleman in my office the other day who is a Kenyan, who has had to relocate to Rwanda because we have made it impossible for him to do value addition of tea in Kenya. I have a gentleman from Limuru here, right? So he's going to Rwanda so that he can take our tea to Rwanda and do value addition there and make more money for Rwanda than us. So again, these are, and I agree with you, we have bottlenecks that we can remove so that we can enhance our contribution of manufacturing or value addition or that whole space. to our GDP. So let me repeat again, we will be deliberate, because we are not only, and whatever needs to be done for us to achieve that, we must do. Let me also give you another example. When we figured out this railway thing, it was largely for us to promote our manufacturing and industrialization sector. And we were looking at Naivasha being a very big hub, because we have cheap energy. We can actually easily get power in Naivasha at 4.5, 5 US cents, minus the transportation and the geothermal power. We can get it cheap. And we already have ready steam from the geothermal. So our focus was, how do we use geothermal, both the steam and the power generated, to lower the cost of our production and create products that can help us do import substitution, but also help us work with what we can export. And again, we were looking at, and that's part of what our team is looking at, two primary areas: textile industry and leather industry. I know it may look limiting, but that's where we really have an edge, and we have cotton we can grow locally. We've been dancing around BT cotton for far too long. We cannot continue to imagine that we cannot work with BT cotton. It is stupid, if I may say, for anybody to think that we cannot plant BT cotton in Kenya. I mean, all the clothes we are wearing could possibly be BT cotton material. So we must go that direction. We have a lot of expertise in that direction. We just need to improve on the ginneries, and we will be able to have a product that we can meet world-class standards, even if it means working with some of the best textile factories in the world and giving them a foothold in Kenya, so that, as you said correctly, they already have markets. We should be able to leverage on them, accessing the markets they have, but working with our cotton and working with our labor and working with our steam. We are and that's why there is a bit of this conversation about mitumba and what have you. Mitumba is not what we are looking at. Mitumba has a niche market, and you can never compete with mitumba. But there is a whole bigger market on textile, on people who don't buy mitumba. They need different clothing, and that's the market we want to address ourselves to. And the same thing with the leather industry. I went, for example, to Rao's outfit in Athi River. I mean, you can't believe it. All the leather that I use myself, we stopped buying leather from Dubai, because we can buy from Rao. And we are buying from Rao at 30% of the price we are buying from Dubai. What Rao is selling for 1,000 shillings, you need 3,500 shillings in Dubai. Same quality, yeah? What are we doing today in Kenya? David Ndi will tell you, we are slaughtering 3 million heads of cattle. We were in Kajiado. We were in Wajir. We were in Marsabit. Their biggest complaint is that they give the skin to dogs. The skin is nothing. The hides mean nothing to them. It's a big loss. And what are we doing? We are importing all these leather products. So I don't think it's rocket science. And Rao is already doing it here. It's not something that is out of space. Rao is already doing it here. We've put 1 billion shillings in a tannery in Narok. Yeah, that's not doing much, but you can see a bit of traces now. They are now making boots out of the Narok tannery. So we have a whole manufacturing industry out there. And we need to work with you guys, look at what we can do in value addition in all the primary products we have, coffee, tea, and what have you. Look at what we can do in the textile sector. What can we do in the leather sector? These are areas we can have a conversation with you, work on what are the incentives required, what are the issues required. And therefore, if you look at our plan, almost 40% of it depends on the sector that you're in. Our other plan is how to create market for the product that you manufacture. And our focus is on how do we create a population with some purchasing power, right? And our focus is in the area of SMEs. We are looking at these 600 people that we inject into the labor market every year. They are doing all manner of things. They're selling little wares here and there. And that whole sector has about 10 million people. Yeah, and it's growing. And their biggest challenge is largely three issues. Number one is space for them to do whatever it is that they are doing. They are doing it in every place. So we're looking at how do we create infrastructure that support the people at the bottom of the pyramid. How do we create, number two, legislation that protect what they are doing? And number three, how do we make them access credit? Many of the people, many of the 15 million people in CRB today are largely those people. Because they try borrow from M-Pesa, they go and do something here, they go do something there, they end up in CRB. Why? Because Fuliza is charging them 6% per day. You are all manufacturers. Tell me how much you can do with interest of 6% per day. That's 2,000% per year, you know. Our thinking, and we have worked with numbers with Professor Ndi and his team, is that if we worked with these people and we simply made them access credit at 14% like all of us, yeah, we could easily, with a little bit of intervention here and there, we could easily grow their incomes from 200 shillings, 100, 200, maybe 300 on a good day. We can grow it to between 500 and 700 shillings a day, right? That way, we will create a bigger pool of people with a bit of money to buy what we are all manufacturing. And if you just looked at in a simple manner, assuming we even add just 200 shillings per day to their income, that's about 2 billion shillings a day for 10 million people. That's about 720 billion shillings a year. If as a manufacturer you go to 1%, that is 7 billion shillings to your business, right? That's where we're looking. How do we work with what they are doing at the moment, just make it better so that they can earn more money as we seek for ways of transiting these people to a more reliable, as you said, as we grow the manufacturing, the value addition sector, for us to take them there. How do we improve their incomes as we work on? So we are looking at how do we create a bigger pool of taxpayers or people who have some income. Yeah, how do we support that sector? And that's why we are proposing that we are going to have a micro and small enterprise fund, which will make it easier for these people to access credit. Let me give you an example, practical example. Ruaka market here. So we were campaigning for that gentleman called Wanjiko in Kiamba. So we're at Ruaka market, we find him and they say, please help us. The Shylocks are finishing us, you know. We borrow 1 million shillings every day from the Shylock, collectively. And at the end of the day, we pay the Shylock 1,100,000 every day, right? So please, you know, do something about this. If we got 1 million shillings, we would save 100,000 every day. You know, that's how serious it is. And it's not just that market. We did the same in Gong market. Yeah, we did the same in that market. I don't know. No. This market in Kabete, Wangige. Yeah, the same thing. So there is a real serious problem of access to credit. Yeah, which if we address, we can significantly increase the incomes of many small people. You know. It looks simplistic, but it is real. I mean, it's reality. You know, that's what happens. You know, so so we're looking at how do we assist you guys selling this product and that product, and I'm looking at it even from my own point of view. You know, I produce eggs. I'm looking at how many more people can buy these eggs. You know, from my small farm in Sugoi. You know, the more you expand the income of people, the better for everybody. So that's one area. And sometimes people think we are emphasizing too much on the small people. But you see, that's the base that everybody needs. If we sort out the base, we sort out everybody, because we create a market for you guys for the products you are selling, your manufacturing, your processing. We create a bigger pool of people who can pay tax. We only have the chance to reduce your taxes if we have more people paying. You don't have a chance of us, say, reducing VAT from 16% to 14%, for example. We will only have that chance if we have a bigger pool of people contributing. But as long as it is thin, we'll have to shoulder the bigger burden. So that's our approach. We are looking at the export market as well, you know. Edible oil, you all know, we import close to $1 billion of edible oil. Maybe 80 billion on a good year, but largely $1 billion every year of edible oil. We've had a discussion with many counties. We were in Busia, for example, and Busia is saying, we can grow Sympathising, we can grow soya, you know. Can somebody help us with a market? You know? So the disconnect is the people who grow the oil crops and the market, and the people who need it. Sunflower, soya, Sympathising, and the whole of that space. We need manufacturers like you to come in between for the offtake, you know, and then process, right? So that we don't have to import $1 billion of edible oil every year when we can actually grow it here. I was having a conversation last night on Mutembei, was it? West FM last night. And that was the conversation, you know. People are telling us we are growing sugarcane. And we are making 20 billion shillings a year. If you enabled us to grow edible oil, we would make 80 billion shillings a year. They would actually replace this this edible oil that we are importing, and that is the case in all that area. So that's a space we are looking at. We are looking at how do we enhance productivity, and how do we bring you guys in the middle to help us with offtake, process, and then when you process, you will do us two things. You will give us edible oil, and you will give us animal feed, which currently we are importing all the raw materials from Zambia, from Tanzania, from all over the place, and that kind of thing. Forgive me because I am so passionate about this thing. Maybe I've talked for too long, but it is something I very strongly believe in. So, so what we are looking at is how do we use where we are to create jobs? How do we create a bigger market? How do we create an export market? And how do we leverage on whatever infrastructure that we have now to make it work for the bigger picture? And then finally, so that I can ask my other colleagues to speak to some of the issues. And you have said it, the whole space around water infrastructure. You know, we had a big plan on the water infrastructure that again collapsed because of politics, you know. We have identified, like around the country, some 1,500 small dams and about 57 mega dams. We've only done 3 of the 57, yeah. We need to create a different model for building these dams because water is something that can pay for itself, you know. You're not asking for free water. You are asking for water that you can pay but a reasonable price. You don't have to invest in doing 2 million, 3 million shillings to get a borehole, and then all the other infrastructure, 5 million shillings to get a tank and all that. You don't have to do that. So that's another space we are very keen. We're very keen about, and our intervention, our engagements around the countries have given us a sense of how heavy is it and where are the gaps. And finally, we have to deal with the big challenge that brings a lot of stress, and that is the health challenge. Clean water will do quite a bit of it, but also we will have to work out and fashion a universal health cover scheme that is affordable, that is reasonable, and that carries a majority of the people. And finally, we will have to do something about saving. We must do something about saving. You know, we must do something about saving. Savings is a very big component of whether we can grow or whether we're going to be in debt. Even as we borrow other people's money, at the back of our mind, we must know that what we are borrowing is what others have saved. Yeah? So we cannot just be on a borrowing spree thinking that it is free money. It's not free money. You know, we have to pay for it, number one, and we have to understand that it's the savings of other people. And we need to think about our own savings. I'm sure you are aware, we are at what, David, 7% maybe of our GDP in terms of saving? Huh? 7 or 8%, yeah. Very interesting countries. China, for example, is at 55% of their GDP savings. That's why we are all going to China. It's because to create the understanding of saving. I remember sending our Minister for Labor 3 years ago to Uganda. Uganda small, their economy is almost half ours. But their NSSF is the largest, I think, in Eastern Central Africa. Why? Because the law in Uganda says 10% of your salary goes to saving by law. Yeah? And the same amount from your employer. So they have created a big pool of resources which they use to borrow to do their infrastructure, right? At the moment, I'm sure you're all aware, we are all paying 200 shillings, Kenya shillings, 200, to NSSF, aren't we? Yes, 200 shillings. Even if your salary is 500,000, you're paying 200 shillings. You know, I think it is silly. Oh, so and I know that there are other saving instruments that are in the corporate world, but we have to rethink about that whole space of saving and push our savings as a percentage of GDP to a level. The big quarrel I have, I know you people know that I have a big quarrel with Atwoli. Atwoli doesn't like me at all. Because I do not understand how he can be opposed to saving, you know? Because, I mean, what is the use of retiring and then you are paid in your retirement 70,000 because you have been saving 200 shillings? You know, how does that help anybody? You know? So we really must go that direction and find a mechanism of saving. And finally, we cannot continue the trajectory, and I agree with you, we need a much more stable tax environment. People must know that for the next 2 years, 3 years, you know, this is where I will need to think about in terms of our taxes, you know. This is where we think we need to do. But every budget cycle, we are all thinking, so what is going to go up this time? And unfortunately, it always goes up. It never comes down, you know. So I wish in some instances it would come down, then people maybe could look forward. So everybody is looking at what is going to go up this time round. And we need to avoid the criminalization or politicization of tax paying. You know, we really can't continue the trajectory that tax is being collected by the GSU. It cannot be that tax is collected by people with guns. I mean, we really have to think about better mechanisms of tax collection. And from where we sit as Kenya Kwanza, we are all aware that at the moment we are collecting 52%, 53% of collectible VAT. We are collecting 52, thereabout percent of collectible VAT. If we collected all the VAT that we need to collect, and it will not take a year for us to put the infrastructure in place to collect GDP, to collect our VAT. In fact, David, I think we are collecting VAT 4%, 3.6% of our GDP. Rwanda is collecting 8% of their GDP. South Africa is collecting 11% of their GDP. Other countries are collecting 20% of their GDP. There is a real scope for us to collect VAT, and we can collect an extra almost 500 billion shillings just by making sure that everybody pays for payable VAT. What do we need to do? We need to do what Rwanda came to learn from us. We need to digitize, We need to computerize so that everybody pays their VAT. And if everybody paid their VAT, our corporation tax will also go up by maybe another 200, 300 billion. So we can move our tax revenues from the current 1.6, 1.7 trillion to 3 trillion. We can move it to 3 trillion, and it doesn't take a miracle. And with that, we will slow down on borrowing. We must stop. We must really think about borrowing. It cannot continue. We cannot continue to say we are using other people's money. It's not working because we are paying 1 trillion shillings every year on debt. 1 trillion shillings every year. If you are collecting 1.8 trillion and you are paying 1 trillion shillings debt, you're not in a good place. It doesn't matter how you look at it, right? And I think this whole of debt, we must apply the principle that if you find yourself in a hole, stop digging first, then figure out how you can how you can get out of it. So I think we need to stop digging. You know, we cannot continue with the mentality that, oh, you know, these are other people's money anyway, let us borrow. And I think that's being a bit too casual. So I think that's what we need to do. I know I have said many things in a haphazard way. Sometimes I'm much more organized than that. But anyway, let me leave it there. Maybe I can ask my colleagues to just make some interventions, maybe on something I have forgotten. Herman, maybe you can say something. Or David, maybe, yeah.
Yeah. I can just elaborate then so that Musalia can close. Okay. He tends to say more wise things than the rest of us. He's more reflective. Just to emphasize.
Hi, love.
Yes, darling.
Let me guess. Coffee?
Yeah.
Oh yes, it's halfway down the line for the year 2022, and here at Optivin, we're giving you an opportunity to stay warm this season. Buy a plot of land at Celebration Gardens, Kitengela. Celebration Gardens comes with Marram roads, trees along the internal roads, and will have water and electricity amongst other features. For every 699k that you place as deposit or installment towards any of Optivin's plot of land, we gift you a brand new coffee maker to make you feel warm. Changamkia ploti na Optivin. Call us on 0790 300 300.